the way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea, the memory of all that. No, no, they can't take that away from me.
Don Terner, builder, teacher, leader, father, husband, man of compassion with passion. He changed people's lives.
You ask why we do this work. It's to see people like that. It's to feel that sense of freedom. Shelter is one of the basic necessities of life, and there's no substitute for it.
When Don taught housing and urban policy at Harvard, he helped set up the Urban Homesteading Assistance Board in New York. Don and UHAB provided help to low-income residents who use their own labor or sweat equity to convert abandoned buildings in the South Bronx into livable homes.
Whether it was helping to build homes in Africa, South America, Vietnam, or the Bronx, Don improved the lives of thousands of individuals. One resident in a bridge development, Paula Kotakas, wrote,
Dear Mr. Terner, our lives changed dramatically for the better when we moved into Parkview Commons. Not a week goes by without Dad telling me how lucky we are for our condominium.
Don dreamed big. His aspirations for housing became inspirations to others.
One of the first things Don did when we formed UHAB was to write a very, very thick, brilliantly written proposal to the city, which I'm not sure anyone bothered to read. He then followed it up with a press conference and announced that we intended to rehab 20,000 units throughout the city of New York. At the time, I was very upset by Don's press release style of starting an organization, and I felt it was very inappropriate. But in retrospect, I see Don was exactly right. You have to set the standards very, very high.
And they were met. After UHAB, Don moved to the Bay Area to teach at UC Berkeley. In 1978, he was made the State Director of Housing and Community Development by Governor Jerry Brown.
I met Don in 1978. He was nominated and became the head of the Housing and Community Development Department when I was the Secretary of Business and Transportation. He used to call me boss. I often wonder who the real boss really was. But I was probably the first Republican he ever knew. And so he knew that he had a real job. But the journey with Don was an exciting one. He taught me things about life and compassion and respect that changed my life. I lost a lot of my business friends during that period, but somehow I picked up a lot of self-respect.
The Sacramento Bee wrote, California has assumed a role in housing of a magnitude that is unmatched by any other state in the nation. That is the imposing legacy of Donald Terner. After leaving his position at the state, Don was asked to head the newly formed Bridge Housing Corporation. Why not, Don said with typical enthusiasm, aim for 1,000 new units under construction per year. Frank D. Giovanni, in his report to the Ford Foundation, responded to the criticism of Terner's production machine mentality. Bridge's goals appear very aggressive. Indeed, considering that the corporation has been operating for less than 5 years in an environment that poses many difficulties for developers, Bridge's expectations are probably overly optimistic. Don's vision for Bridge was threefold: the delivery of very large volumes of extremely high-quality housing at exceptionally low prices, affordable to families earning $12,000 to $25,000 per year. There are those who would sometimes grit their teeth at his audacity, but no one questioned the award-winning and humanitarian results.
We're marching to the beat of a different drum. I don't like to say it. And I'm responding perhaps in a thin-skinned way or a defensive way to a lot of criticism we get. But we are, in fact, somewhat of a steamroller. And we are this hybrid creature in San Francisco, existing somewhat uncomfortably among our fellow nonprofits and being looked at in a kind of weird way by the for-profit developers and the for-profit businesses.
When it came to raising money to create more affordable housing, Don's powers of persuasion were legendary. He was not one to take no for an answer.
We really tried to turn Don down for a loan. Frank DiGiovanni told me Don wanted to come to New York to talk to us one more time. I told him that the decision was really whether we could agree to invest, because if we met with him, he would clearly talk us into it. And he came, and he did talk us into it, and we loved every minute of it. We may have given him more than he asked for.
Don was masterful in his power of persuasion, converting politicians, neighbors, and financial institutions to the gospel of quality, affordable housing for all citizens. But in the early battles for bridge, it was never easy, and Don had an air of righteous indignation.
What Dr. Ryder did is he paid and he qualified an initiative, and then he met at Scott's Restaurant, as the film showed, Bill Whitty and myself and Ben Galvin, and he said, I'll drop these issues. I don't care about those signatures. We have a way to get rid of that.
He outlined the process.
He outlined the process. He said, just give me my illegal uses, legalize them in place, and the opposition to your housing goes down the drain.
Again, Paula Kotakis at Parkview Commons.
After reading and hearing about the roadblocks, I am even more grateful than the day I moved in for the perseverance of groups and individuals such as yourself. Thank you for your vision and endurance.
Opposition to Don's projects was based on fear. They were to be projects, after all, and everyone knew what those meant.
You talk about Bridge Housing Corporation coming into a community. We're greeted with two receptions. Half the room is apoplectic, the other half is catatonic. But no one wants to see us come in. The specter of crack cocaine dealing, junk cars, garbage, graffiti, unkept properties is the only thing that people hear.
Don liked to point out that the people who lived in bridge developments were often their fellow citizen neighbors.
The cop, the fireman, the teacher, the nurse, the retail clerk, the entry-level professional, the industrial worker, you name it, the backbone of the economy in our market is being priced out.
Economics sets up cruel barricades to housing, and Don's work was to provide shelter by working around the economic dilemmas. Sometimes the work was pure confrontation.
Can I get your public promise that you will not personally sue me because I have a very limited income, I'm a single mother. I want to know you're not going to sue me, so I end up living in one of your apartments.
Let me say this.
I just want a yes or no.
You know, Councilmember Shea, I realize that you're saying a simple yes or no will suffice, but permit me to say that it isn't a simple answer. I want to say this. The thing, if there were to ever be a suit, and I am hopeful that there would never be a suit, what we would seek is permission to build. That is our mission. Our mission is not to take personal monies from city council members and somehow line coffers with it.
Don's skills of persuasion became opportunities to teach and inspire. Here's how it seemed to Parkview Commons resident Paula Kotakis.
It amazes me that you all didn't throw in the towel against such obstacles and downright mean-spiritedness. For us, moving into our own home means I no longer fear I won't be able to provide a roof over my father's head. We even have a little money left over each month to go out and have some fun. A welcome change.
Maybe it went back to his early days as a lifeguard. Don was the king of resuscitation. He was constantly breathing new life into projects that had been pronounced dead.
Don was a fighter. Not in any contentious way, but he believed passionately in affordable housing. He believed that poor folks should have a chance to better themselves, just like everyone else.
That what we're trying to do is come back into downtown Richmond, which has been hurt by the economic hard times, and to build an entire community, not just buildings, but buildings, jobs, and services. There are going to be 200 permanent jobs here.
When construction financing became harder to find, Don looked for new sources of funding. Spurred by the offer of a $15 million interest-free loan from World Savings and Loan, Don joined forces with Herb Sandler, CEO of World, to seek new funding. The result? Creation of a $340 million construction loan pool.
$340 million, that's a big number. It's a huge pile of money. And it puts a tremendous responsibility on us as a national model to spend it well, to spend it efficiently and productively and wisely, to make something really happen on the ground.
Don was a true entrepreneur. He took risks, intellectually, politically, economically, and emotionally, because he knew he had to make a difference. While his legacy in bricks and mortar is so evident, I'll always think of his legacy in the thousands of students, colleagues, friends, and workers who he encouraged to do more, to do better.
I can remember flying over the Bay Area with Don as we landed at San Francisco Airport. He was looking out the window of the plane and trying to point out bridge developments to me all over the Bay Area, and saying, that's what I want for my legacy. Not public office, not some book on somebody's shelf. I want housing for low-income people, buildings that you can walk up to and kick. And that's what Don has left behind.
We may never, never meet again on the bumpy road to love.
The words of Paula Katakis, perhaps, sum up the thoughts of all of us who knew Don.
Mr. Terner, what I'm trying to say is that your efforts made a tremendous difference in our lives. Affordable housing is a noble idea, but it takes people like yourself to make it come true. We're indebted to you and your associates for your generosity, patience, hard work, gutsiness, stamina, and passion. You are changing people's lives. For that, we will always be grateful.
Take that!